Hello, everybody. I'm Denton Davidson for Gold Derby, and I'm chatting with Emmy winner Courtney B. Vance, who plays Reverend C.L. Franklin, the father of Aretha Franklin and Nat Geo's bioseries genius, Aretha. Courtney, I'll just start off by asking what drew you to this role of a man who was a complicated celebrity figure in his own right, and how do you think he, in turn, contributed to the genius of Aretha Franklin?
Well, I was drawn to the story. I'm a huge fan of Susan Lloyd Parks. We were close to doing a project. Her first play, I believe it was, The Last Black Man in the Whole Entire World, back in the early 90s. And 6 Degrees of Separation came up for me. And so I bailed on her to go for that. And 30 years later, here we are. And I'm a huge fan of Anthony Hemingway from the People versus O.J. Simpson days. So it was a very easy choice. And then on top of the fact that it's, I knew nothing about Reverend C.L. I was a baby. I was 7 when we used to live on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, which was about 1.5 miles from the church, New Bethel, and about 8 houses down from Pittsville, which was early Motown. So we used to go sit on the stoop of Pittsville and just watch people come and go. We didn't know who was coming in there. But when anybody who is of that generation, and that generation meaning C.L. Franklin's age, that came straight up in that great migration up from the Deep South, leaving sharecropping days. They were harmed. Everyone was harmed in that situation. The psychosis and was deep, and we're still feeling it. The ramifications of that psychosis, that psychoticness of telling a people that we have complete control over your entire bodies and lives, and souls, and what that does to a human being, and how that human being is able to process that. And consequently, there was no safety net for those folks. Either they sunk or they swam. And C.L. Franklin's father gave him the ultimatum, because he was going around the area preaching at small churches, and he said, you're messing with me because you got to be here at 5 o'clock to help me with the crop. So either the pulpit or the plow, you got to choose right now. And he chose the pulpit, and the stepfather kicked him out of the house. So he had to make it. He had to figure it out. And was there some residual effect of that choice? When you see people dragged and hung and at an early age and beat and shot and castrated, there is a residual that everyone, white and black, had to deal with and was harmed by. He was harmed by it, but what he did, all we know is that he left his daughter with a sense of no matter what happens, you're gonna keep going. And that was that scene in there, even though that you're pregnant now, this is not going to deter you from what God has got for you. And it was that spirit that, regardless of the harm that was imparted to him, and he was able to impart to his daughter that spirit of you will not let anything deter you. And she needed that, as it took her 7 years to find her way and to find her voice.
And you told us that you grew up in Detroit. So was the Franklin story well known there, and sort of this kind of double life that CL had as a man of God who was also, known for partying quite a bit? Was that known in Detroit, or how much research did you have to do on CL to really understand his life?
Well, I mean, if you're Black in Detroit, and that we can talk about it, but we can't judge it from from 2021. That he was a man of his time, just like we're people of our times. He was a man of his times. As I said, pastors, they weren't all saints, and in a real sense, none of us really are. So I know that those kinds of things were happening. I studied to do a project about Martin Luther King. I was going to play Martin Luther King for an ABC miniseries years ago, and was doing a lot of research. And you know, they all and Pastor King and Pastor Franklin were both very, very dear friends. So they both were they weren't saints. The clubs were on the same street as the churches were, and people would leave the clubs early in the morning and go take a nap, basically get dressed and go to church. And when you don't have when you're a non-person everywhere but in the church, when you're spat upon and treated the way Black folks were during that time period, Pastor C.L. Franklin knew he wasn't that. There was no way he was going to take away their Saturday night and their Friday nights, because they wouldn't have got through the week without their Saturday and Friday night. So he understood that intrinsically, and he made sure that he was right there with them when they came out of there for church on Sunday. So, you know, it's very easy for us to sit and look down upon, but I challenge anyone who has is in that situation where you are nothing, and the riots attest to that in 43 in Detroit and 67. Detroit was one of the most, or probably the top two super segregated cities, as they say, in the country, being Chicago and Detroit, and St. Louis probably a close third. So, you know, we must, when we look at these situations, we must look at it in the context from which it happened. If you don't, yeah, it's easy to say, yeah, he was a philanderer, it's very easy, but it was much more complex than that, and he was much more complex than that.
And when you're playing someone that's so high profile, and there's so much public footage, you've done it before with Johnny Cochran, of course, for which you won an Emmy for The People versus O.J. Simpson. I imagine in some aspects it can help you with speech patterns and mannerisms, but does that hinder you as an actor in what you want to bring to the character, or how do you balance that when you're playing someone that there's so much footage of?
And Denton, yeah, I think you correctly characterized it. It depends. With Johnny Cochran, for whatever reason, I felt the need not to look at the video footage, and because there is so much of Johnny Cochran. I felt intimidated by the possibility of that, so I stayed away from that and just read Jeffrey Toobin's book, The Run of His Life, and that was enough. I read it a couple times. I found a place where I saw that he and his upbringing, my upbringing, were similar, and I said, that's enough. The scripts are great. People will forgive me some nuance I miss, and I jumped in because I knew we were going to be doing 3 and 4 episodes at a time, and there wasn't time to refer back to a video piece that I just had to be able to go. And but with C.L. Franklin, I knew I had to have his rhythms completely down, and so he was one of the first pastors to actually record and sell his sermons as albums. So they're all digitized, so you can just put in his name and all of his sermons come up, and you just can roll through them. And I, just would find 1 or 2 sermons that spoke to me, and I stayed with that. So it was very easy with CL, and with, if I chose to, with Johnny Cochran, but I chose not to with Johnny Cochran to research that way via video.
And the series spans decades, and we see you transform on screen. The hair and makeup department seemed pretty fantastic on this set. What was that process for you like to sort of shift between the decades?
That was a little challenging. It was challenging also in that I'm shifting between the decades with Baby Ree, Miss Cheyenne, and Miss Cynthia. So it was challenging to keep everything, straight, keep my mustache straight. but but it was really challenging for us but that was what Anthony Hemingway really helped us with, to keep everything, keep our focus about where we were, what time this was, where we were in the sequence of events and things. So just challenging to be able to know that we're in the 60s now, as opposed to the 70s, or the 50s now, as opposed to the 60s. And we just have to continually check in with each other. Okay, got it, I know it. And then we can lock right in. So it was just making sure we knew when we started where we were, and Anthony helped us with that, and we were off and running. So it wasn't too challenging.
And he seems to get more frail as he gets older, even before he was shot. And it's almost like there's a power shift happening of him really being in control. And then there's sort of a time when Aretha takes control of her own life and really has to start caring for him. Do you think that was a struggle that he dealt with, to sort of surrender control to her in some ways?
And I think that was I think that's the way it should happen. That you raise children to be able to one day take care of you. It was complicated by, it's a time when there were no rules, and this wasn't supposed to happen. You don't go from sharecropping to the most famous preacher in the United States. It did. So they were working it out as they went along, and a lot of times they weren't very successful. She did owe everything to him, but there was a time when, and because she didn't do what he thought she should do, he started withholding some of his love and his finances. So there was a sense that there was anger, there was resentment between the two of them. But all I know is that there's a scene that happens when he's in the bed and he's in a coma for 5 years, and she's sitting there. She said, "I don't know what to do." All I always say that, on your tombstone, you're only going to have one sentence. You only have a couple words. So you can't take all of the accolades and the Grammys and everything. Our bishop always says, "I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse yet." You can't take any of it with you. So, what we're left with is her music and her love for her father and her love for her family. The rest of it, whatever. We all got drama.
Yeah, and Cynthia Erivo, of course, plays Aretha Franklin. She really dove into this. I interviewed her earlier, and she said you were, quote, awesome to work with, and really grounded her and allowed her to take her time. What was your experience working with Cynthia and seeing her transform into Aretha Franklin?
She did the same. She took her time. She was very shy in the beginning. Maybe that was a portion of that was because she had a lot on her. I challenge anybody to have to sing all those songs she had to sing, and record and work with the coach that she was working with to make sure she knew where she was in the songs and how she wanted to sing the songs, and then do all of the acting that she had to do at the same time. So it was absolutely a towering challenge, but she rose to it, and the team rose and made sure that from a costume standpoint, of makeup and latex standpoint, a wig standpoint, you know, as Anthony and Susan Laurie made sure that she had whatever she needed to make sure because basically when you look at it, it's really about the eyes and the comfort that is you and the camera. And if you don't feel comfortable, we'll see it. So they made sure she was comfortable, and the fruits of that is what we all witnessed.
And this is a completely different role, but I just want to time travel a little bit because we are approaching this year the 25th anniversary of The Preacher's Wife, when you played a different kind of preacher, Henry Biggs opposite Whitney Houston as your wife Julia, Denzel Washington as the angel Dudley. This film really held up over time. It's a Christmas classic that just keeps coming back year after year. What was your experience with Whitney and that music on set and working with Denzel?
I'm a huge Whitney Houston fan. In fact, for her homegoing service, I couldn't go. I wouldn't go. My wife went, and I have the image of her I have in my mind. She was a lovely, beautiful, warm person to work with. She had her own life challenges, as we all do. We talking about Aretha, Whitney. You know, I challenge anybody to grow up in the prism of celebrity in front of us all and try to figure it all out as she navigated her relationship. So, but it was very, somebody that, you know, that initial album, that cover with her hair pulled back, I forget the name of it, looking like a little angel there, and then to grow up with that album, and then to be able to end up working with that person. There's, you know, and Penny Marshall and Denzel and, you know, the whole group of us, we were and became a family. So in fact, I proposed to my wife at the premiere of Preacher's Wife. So it changed. It was a piece and a moment that changed my life. So God rest her soul. Both she, Whitney, and Penny, they changed my life for the better. So I'll always be indebted to the greatest one of all, Miss Whitney Houston.
I loved that movie as a kid, so thanks for telling us that story. And as a final question, there's news that's come out recently that you and your wife Angela Bassett are producing a limited series on the 1921 Tulsa Massacre. Can you tell us anything about that project and when you expect to begin shooting?
Oh, we don't know when we're going to begin shooting. We have the wonderful deal with CBS Viacom and our team, Ms. Lynette Ramirez, who's our development person, and Dwayne Johnson Cochran, and myself and Angela. We have just been, you know, trying to find wonderful projects, and it's a dream come true for us to be able to work on things that we see as very important and influential. And this opportunity came up to work with Nathan Allen Davies. He seems to be the one for this particular project to write it. And, you know, we will begin the whole process with CBS Viacom team to start to put it, the limited series together. I'm a history person, so, you know, I love, you know, the whole idea of there was a land rush in Oklahoma to actually, they shot a cannon off and people just ran into the area and staked claims. So it was a very unique kind of place. You know, but, you know, that was Native American land, you know, so it was cleared, they cleared the Native Americans off of it in order for the settlers to be able to do that. So it's very complex, as the country is very complex, as our history is very complex. So it's an opportunity for us to tell stories and to try to I mean, I saw that there was a story that came out yesterday about the Native American children in Canada that were found underneath one of the residential schools, and you know, we have to begin to not to be afraid to have the difficult conversations about what our history is about. We're a great country. Canada is a great country, but we're a family, and families got mess, and we got to deal with the mess. We can't continue to sweep it under the rug. The rug is full of mess, and we got to start to. It doesn't diminish the country, and if we do it right, we show the world how to reclaim ourselves for the better.
Well, we certainly look forward to that story. And Courtney, just congratulations on all your work, particularly this fantastic series, Genius Aretha. I want to encourage our viewers here to subscribe to Gold Derby to see more interviews with awards contenders like Courtney here. Head over to goldderby.com and make your own awards predictions and beat our experts. Courtney, thanks so much for talking with Gold Derby today, and good luck to the entire cast and crew of Genius Aretha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dan.